Hi, everyone. Thank you all for coming and for listening in. I'm Kade. I'm the Education Officer at the charity International Needs Australia. But before I begin today, I want to quickly take a moment to acknowledge the original custodians of the land, of which we are all lucky enough to learn and have this conversation on. For me, it's the land of the Bunurong people, and I want to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Again, thank you all so much for coming and sharing your time with us today while we discuss briefly the work that INA is doing in the education space and having a discussion on the intersection of social justice and student voice and student agency. We're also lucky enough to have Damien Meunier come on, who is the Head of Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Haileybury College. So yeah, Damien, thank you so much for being here today with us.
Thanks for having me, Kade.
Yeah, great to have you here. So a lot of people ask me and INA why we do education at all, because INA is an international development organization. We do work mainly in international poverty and women's empowerment in developing worlds. And with that, there isn't much of a natural progression to education in Australia. So when I tell people about my role, their first question is, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
And something that we as an organization, in alignment with also Damien's belief, strongly believe in is the idea of student passion and student agency. We think that youth is this untapped market in social justice, where young people in Australia are time rich, they're ambitious, and they're highly intelligent. And because of that, that all culminates together to create these incredibly passionate students and people who, when you generate a space where they feel inspired and empowered to make effective and meaningful change in the world, and where they channel their energy into these social justice spaces, we create a much better and more fruitful environment both now and in the future, where we are helping future leaders become change makers in a positive and productive way. And that also relates quite strongly with international development, because the whole reason we do international development is so that we can help people, in our case in developing worlds, have a better life and increase their general livelihoods. And that's the same with internationally as it is locally. But in this case of student voice, it's getting young people to be the change for their own communities, which we believe is a really beautiful and uh, uh, powerful thing as well. So to start off, I would like to ask Damien to again introduce him, who's the Head of Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Haileybury, which is one of the biggest independent schools in Australia and one of the biggest leaders in youth empowerment and youth agency as well. So Damien, could you just introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, again, thanks for having me, Kade. Yeah, so I'm the Head of Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Haileybury. Fancy title, but essentially it means I look after our entrepreneurship program across our school from ELC to 12, and then our innovation projects, and in particular, that kind of hits our extracurricular programs. We call that our Curious Minds programs. But any kind of social justice programs like that we look after. Kay mentioned student agency and voice is a really big aspect to what I do as well.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Damien. So to start off, I know you've been in your job for a few years now as the Head of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Could you tell us a little bit about when you came into that role, what challenges and concerns you faced in this space?
Yeah, I guess a bit of history. I come from a computer science background, and I've always been a member of the various associations and organisations of teachers that work in that space and had a good network of other teachers who are computer science or digital technology teachers. Taking on this entrepreneurship role, originally it was just the entrepreneurship that I looked at. I felt quite siloed in the sense of we were looking to do something in this space where there weren't many other teachers doing that. So it was kind of hard to work out what it is that we were doing, or what I should be doing, and what networks were available, what resources were available out there. So that was probably one of the biggest challenges, just connecting with other like-minded teachers and leaders in this space. And then the other one was, I guess, this idea of entrepreneurship is, I guess, a bit of a loaded word, and different people have different interpretations of what it means. And a lot of people think it's all about just making money. And I guess, that's not what we believe. It's about certain mindsets and skill sets that we're trying to teach our students to be resilient, to think outside the box, to have problem solving, to think about social justice and the impact that they can make through the things that they do and create there. So changing that perception in our community, in the wider community, in the students and the parents, and even our teachers around what the word entrepreneurship means, was one of probably the initial biggest challenges.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And extending on that question and that answer, could you maybe talk a bit about some of the challenges within the educational system in Victoria, either that you've experienced at Haileybury or that you've just perceived more generally as well?
Yeah. I guess if I, looking to where we've got to now, and reflecting on, I guess the big challenge was, how do we give the students the opportunity to make that impact, or have that impact, or to create that value? We're all reporting to our national curriculum or our state curriculum, and we're ticking boxes on certain things. And I guess entrepreneurship or social justice, there's elements of it that are in the humanities and the business curriculum, but where does it sit has been probably one of the initial challenges around, or where it was missing. So I guess finding that place for where it would sit, and the different areas that could feed into it, and convincing the different curriculum leaders and heads of department that this works has mutual benefit for you and your students as well, and creating those opportunities for our students to actually have real life projects that they can work on. I think that was what was originally missing, and now, fast forward where we are now, I feel like we've got lots of opportunities for our students to do exactly that.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Damien. I feel like a lot of that work is for your thanks as well, and the contribution you've made there as well.
Oh, definitely.
Um,
I'll jump in there. It's definitely a team effort. Like none of this can happen if you don't have lots of people on board, and I guess a changing philosophy. We, as a school, we added enterprise and entrepreneurship as a school pillar about 3 or 4 years ago when I took over this role. So it's something that's now ingrained alongside our academic excellence, our international outlook, and social justice. So they're our 4 pillars, and they all work in conjunction with each other. So it's very much about a cultural change.
yeah, for sure. Thanks for adding that as well. Great. So we've been working together for quite a while now, developing a few curricula and as well as different programs. So I'd love for you to maybe talk a bit about the work that we've done together and how maybe that has been used to combat some of those pain points you spoke about earlier.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember. I was trying to remember how we connected. I think it was through LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I came out to your offices and we had a bit of a chat about what you do. One of my roles or responsibilities was to also get a bit of industry connection into what we do. So I reached out to various organisations and was really happy when we were able to connect. Probably the biggest project that we've worked on this year was our what we call the Haileybury Incubator Project, or HIP, which is a program for our Year 9s. And each year, that program is that space for our students to create a project around something that they're passionate about. And in the past, we've had all different types of things, but this year's theme was around social justice. So it was a great alignment with what you do and what we wanted to do to connect on that. And so we held an event earlier in the year, which was held at a local town hall here. We had all our 500 students we have in our Year 9 year level across our campuses come out to that event. We had a number of guest speakers, and including yourself, and you presented to our students on social justice and exactly what social justice means. And then you also held some follow-up workshops with our students around how they can enact on that or act on that, so on that passion or that interest. So that was a really successful event. We had a lot of students inspired by that, and equally teachers who also were inspired. And out of that as well, next year we've got a new subject launching. So I guess that the HIT program was more of a co-curricular activity, whereas next year we have a new subject that we're launching called Social Impact Ventures, and it will basically draw on the HIT program and some of the information, the actual purpose that you supported us with, to actually have students working on a social impact project over a semester long next year, 4 periods a week. So yeah, that's really exciting, and just finishing off the what that looks like now. Interestingly, I'm not sure if I've mentioned this to you, Kade, so in a couple of weeks I'm running a trial of that subject with 20 year nines, so in week 8 of this term. So it'll be interesting to see how that 1 week, it will be a 1 week boot camp. So it'll be interesting to see how that 1 week boot camp goes.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear about it. It sounds like a great project. And yeah, that big workshop that you ran with all the students was such an amazing event. I was very grateful to be there, but also to see all the other workshop presenters and the keynote speakers. It was an inspiring day for everyone. I think it was cool that your school had that space and took the time to invest in their students into that subject.
Yeah, definitely, it was great.
It was. So a lot of the work that INA do in schools is about social justice and how to combat adaptive challenges in the world, especially with this changing landscape in the education system and elsewhere too, with social justice becoming a bit more nuanced and complex, or at least recognizing the complexities in it. It's important for us to then adapt simultaneously. Could you speak a bit about where you think the education system needs to change, or what needs to be done to combat that changing landscape within the education system, especially with the introduction and integration of technology in schools, and how the work INA is doing is also in alignment with that as well?
Yeah, I think we're definitely coming into a generation, and you're evidence of this, I think, Kade, of, we're definitely working with young people now that are feel much more empowered, and maybe it's a technology, it's the access, but I think our young people are much more open and willing and wanting to do something, to do good in the world. And maybe, as I said, maybe it's just, social media and how quickly it is they're able to send a message or share a message. So I think if we don't provide students with these opportunities, there are some students that will go out and do this anyway. But if schools can actually provide our young people with these opportunities to have voice, to make a difference, to provide that change or to enact change, then we're really tapping into engaging our students in really what they're interested in. I think we're definitely, our young people are much more motivated to make positive change in all those different areas around sustainability or around society and local issues. So again, if we don't provide those opportunities within schools, or don't support our students, I think there'll be a small handful that will go out and do that. But I think you mentioned at the start, if we can harness more of those students, it's such a powerful movement to get all those students involved.
For sure. And I think that's already starting to happen with programs that your team is implementing with the ideas of innovation and entrepreneurship within the realm of social justice as well. I think it is helping guide students into that space naturally. And because you're already doing quite a lot of work in that space, could you speak a bit about the impacts that you have already seen and the impacts you foresee coming from programs like the ones we did and other programs that you do in the space of both entrepreneurship and also social justice?
Yeah, I think the greatest impact is the empowerment for our students. So just giving them the almost not so much permission, but the evidence that say actually you can make a difference,
Mm,
and you can do something about it. I think that's, on a larger scale, as I said, I mentioned earlier, we're quite a big school, 500 people, 500 students, even just at our year 9 level. And if we can empower even just a small percentage of those students who believe, okay, actually I can do something as a positive outcome here. Where you time that across however many schools there are in Australia, there's a lot of people who are doing social good out there. So I think that's our biggest impact is, providing our students with that almost ability or permission. The other thing also too is we're providing them with a skill set. A lot of our things that we do are framed around design thinking, and showing them how to validate the work that they're doing and ensuring that they're having metrics in there to make sure that they're having the impact that they want to have. So the skill set that we're providing our students with to be able to move forward, I think that's a huge impact as well, and we'll start to see
mm,
fruits of that come as the students move through the years and even beyond school. Hopefully that will make for a better society overall if students know how that they can do something to make a positive impact, but they also know how to make that positive impact.
mm. Yeah, I completely agree. And one last question, just off of that response. What do you think needs to be done to empower students in that way? Because I think we can all recognize the importance of empowering students, but what do you think schools and people can do to help bring that to fruition?
Or I think there's lots that can be done. I think part of I mentioned earlier, just the idea of connecting with organisations like yourself and providing. We do a lot of work in that mentor space as well. So I've got
Mm,
this belief that you can't be what you can't see. So exposing students to the different ways that you can work. Part of the big the push in my subject for next year at year 9 is looking at all the different ways that's all the different models of social impact. So charities versus social enterprise versus awareness campaigns versus fundraising, really kind of exposing students to the options that are available out there. And connecting them with the right people, I think is a really powerful thing. And as I said, providing them with the space. I think that's a hard part in schools is where do we provide that opportunity for students to do this? But if we can provide that space and that time to promote promote programs like this, then yeah, we're on the right track.
mm. Yeah, that's great. And something I really resonate with what you just said was that mentorship idea of you can't be what you can't see. I love that.
Mm,
I've never heard that before, but I think subconsciously we do that as well with all of our facilitators when we employ them. Something that's really important in the criteria process is knowing that they have an equivalent passion for social justice and have some involvement that's authentic. Um,
yeah.
and yeah, it's great to see your school and people like you also having a similar understanding of that.
And what I might do and jump in there, and one thing that I've really enjoyed working with you, Kade, and your colleagues as well, is that you're not that far removed from our students in regards to age as well. So
Mm,
quite often in regards to that question of you can't be what you can't see, sometimes what they see is someone who is older and been in the industry for 20 years, and now they're starting to make a difference and starting to make an impact. Whereas, what I really like about what the experience that we've had with the INA is that, when you were up on the stage talking about the impact that you're having and you're doing, you're not very far removed from the students themselves in regards to their age. And so they're looking at you going, oh, well, that could be me up there. Whereas, a lot of the time the role models and the mentors that they see on TV or they might read about just seems so distant from them. So I think the fact that you've got lots of young people working in your organization who are passionate and doing some really positive things in the community, I think that's really powerful for school age students as well.
mm. Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you for saying that, and thank you, Damien, for your time and for all your answers. I think a lot of people can learn a lot from the work that you and your team and your school do. So I just want to thank you for being here today, taking the time to share your experiences with all of us.
No problems at all.
Um,
It's an absolute pleasure. And yeah, thanks again for all your work that you've done with us.
no, no worries at all. Thanks, Damien.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks. So for the rest of the live stream, I just want to quickly go through some of the work that INA do in the education space. And we touched on that with Damien a little bit already. So we have two main streams when it comes to education. The first stream is social justice workshops, and the second one is how to take action once you understand what you care about in those spaces. So with the social justice workshops, that could include workshops on the themes of poverty or gender inequity, climate change, cultural sensitivity, literacy in developing worlds. And it's giving them insight and understanding and knowledge about these issues, and doing that in a relatable and engaging way. And the second type of workshop that we provide are how to take action. So now that we've helped students either identify passions of theirs in social justice or just the social justice issues that they could be passionate about, it's now how do you take action in those spaces. So the taking action themes could include fundraising, social enterprising, and also social advocacy. And with those two themes of workshops that we provide, they sort of come together into our cornerstone program that Damien mentioned earlier, which is the Act Your Purpose program. And the Act Your Purpose program is a 4-part year-long program where we go into schools and we help students identify what specifically they care about within social justice and what are they passionate about. And then from there, we provide them with opportunities and skills and tools in which they can then action positive and meaningful change. And then from there, we also recognize that we are inevitably going to leave those students at the end of the year. And so it's providing them with opportunities for them to volunteer or work or continue with their campaigns that they develop throughout the program as well. And the main reason that we do Act Your Purpose is because firstly, we can recognize the undying link between purpose and improved well-being, academic performance, and general livelihoods of students. And we think that once a student understands what they care about and what they're passionate about and what their purpose is, living a purpose-driven life is so much more meaningful and more productive, and they can make a bigger and more significant difference in their world, in their community and the world as well. But something else that we've done is we've digitalized our workshops, and they've now, so that now they are these online courses. And the reason we've done that is twofold. The first is because we want to try and disseminate this information as much as we can to as many people as we can online at a reduced cost. And the main reason we're doing this in this space is because we believe so strongly in the work that we are providing and in this information. And if we can provide this to more people, that's what we want. Ultimately, we want to create a generation of young adults that are passionate about these issues and are provided with avenues and opportunities to make change there too. The second reason is because we also are cognizant that we are based in Metro Melbourne. And because of that, a lot of the schools that we work in are also Metro Melbourne, which means that there's this natural educational opportunity gap that transpires where we don't provide these workshops and these programs to some of the rural and low-income communities, which goes against entirely the work that we do. So by digitalizing it, making it online and accessible, we're also able to access some of those communities too. And this work was done in collaboration with Damien and also his team and the school. So that's mainly the work that we do at INA Education. We do it for both primary schools, secondary schools, and also VCE with the Health and Human Development course. But moving forward, some really exciting things that are coming with INA Education is we are digitalizing a second program. So the first program we did with Damien was all about social enterprise and how to make a positive difference in that space. Now we're moving to advocacy, because another thing we recognize is the importance not only to enterprise and money-based work, but also advocacy-based work advocacy towards your local government or towards the big government or towards corporation, and making change in that way through social mobilization. So we're making another course, which is again going to be student-led and accessible and through subscriptions that we're going to provide and develop in the coming few months. So that's INA, and that's INA education as well. And that concludes our live stream today. I want to firstly, again, thank Damien very much for taking the time on his Thursday afternoon to speak with us and inform us on the work that he does and his team does. It's pretty inspirational, and we're very lucky and grateful that INA gets to collaborate with such inspiring people. If people are interested, whether that be teachers, principals, or anyone else, in any of the work we do, please go to our website, the INA website, and either fill out the contact form or just contact us on our email, and we would love to get in touch with you in any way that you hope. Thank you so much for coming in today and being a part of this live stream with us, and I look forward to getting in touch with you all soon.